Hi everyone, I'm Ken from Crypto Trading KS. If you're new, welcome, and welcome back to our regular community. Let's run the numbers. Bitcoin currently trading at 48,867, up 3.78%. Ethereum trading at 32.85, up 1.88%. Matic doing really well, up 13.06%. My goal is to assist you to be more of a financial blessing and create real wealth for yourself and those you love. Over more than 20 years of trading, I've created thousands of rules. Rule 716, look inside, not outside. This is a really important rule. It really has so many applications to life, not just trading or investing, but life in general. It's really important to look inwards. Inwards, you can change. Outwards, not so much. Norman Vincent Peale said it really well. Inner peace is being harmonious without stress. Now, what does this all mean? What's harmonious? Why do we care about inner peace? Don't we just want to trade and invest and make heaps and heaps of money? Well, sure, absolutely. But think about it. If you have your goal, you've made your millions, you're sitting there and you say, you know what, I'm not really happy. I don't have inner peace. What you're going to find is inner peace is a form of absolute wealth. It is a component of real wealth. Mother Teresa had a really good way, a secret way of kickstarting inner peace. She said, peace begins with a smile. That's really true. If you think about your life, when you smile at people, what do? They smile back. There's a kind of a warmth there. That's a really nice feeling. Let's turn to KS zone analysis. These are the 4 stages that all investors and traders progress through to become consistently profitable and attain real wealth. When we talk about meaning, inner peace, that is in zone 4. Zone 1 is the fear zone. This occurs when you're just starting. When you reach the blame zone, you've had the courage to take action, but unfortunately it hasn't gone as expected, which is normal for trading and investing. That's zone 2. When you get past blame, you look internally, not externally. You get into zone 3, where you have probabilistic fearlessness. Zone 3 is all about patience and rules. When you get into zone 4, that's all about inner peace, authenticity, fulfillment. You really want to aim for zone 4. It's one thing to have money, but money without inner peace is pretty valueless. Buddha also had a secret recipe. Those who are free from resentful thoughts surely find peace. It's really easy to get resentful at others. Others can attack you for no justifiable reason. However, if you're resentful, you lose your inner peace. Just think about it this way. Anybody can have an opinion. It doesn't matter if it's right or if it's wrong. Just let them have their opinion and just be independent from that. I'd just like to say thank you to the very generous and beautiful people who have donated to me at buymeacoffee.com/cryptotradingks. I very much appreciate it. Thank you. This is the only donation page I have. Please be aware of scammers. If anyone asks you for money claiming to be me or representing me, they are a scammer. This is the only donation page we have for this community. Rule 174, the T-cube method, trend, timing and trigger. We're going to look at trend. Using the KS process, we're all about probabilistic fearlessness inside our community. Make probabilities your trusted advisor, not your fear. Just looking through the headlines of the Wall Street Journal, selling luxury goods in a more socialist China becomes a problem. A speech on wealth inequality by China's president has wiped around $70 billion off the value of Europe's top luxury stocks. Ouch! Chinese stocks slide as the crackdown that the government is doing currently shows no signs of abating. The FDA is poised to give Pfizer shot full approval in the next week. US air travel volumes dropped to 10-week low. Nancy Pelosi is bracing for a showdown with moderates next week over the infrastructure vote. A COVID-19 closure at one of China's ports is the latest problem in global supply chains. China passes one of the world's strictest data privacy laws. We talked about that in the previous trend episode. That data privacy law doesn't stop the government from collecting private information, just private companies. There are a lot of headlines about China. Basically, China is pulling their economy under much, much stricter control. Elon Musk is saying that Tesla would build a robot in a human form that could perform repetitive tasks, with a prototype likely to be ready for next year. Wow. Amid labor shortage, robots step in to make the French fries. Fast food chains are working with a host of startups to bring automation into their kitchens. Money managers race to launch the first US Bitcoin ETF for Bitcoin futures. Oil prices fall to the lowest point since May on a stronger dollar. Here we have the article, China passes one of the world's strictest data privacy laws, and Nvidia's takeover of ARM raises competition concerns, UK regulators say. The majority of the headlines are about China and AI automation. If we consider the economic implication of this, if we've got humanoid robots performing repetitive tasks, automation in kitchens, displacing service workers in the food sector, how does that help the Fed reach full employment goals? It's going to be much, much harder. And of course, with China's different activities that their regulators are taking right now, again, it's going to be really, really hard for the economy to move back to full employment. Let's look quickly at the Bitcoin trend. If we look at the S&P 500, it's up 30% over the past year. Gold is down 8%. Bitcoin is up 318%. For the last 12 months, we can see going down this column, Bitcoin has done quite well in comparison to perhaps gold or stocks. Zooming out to the KSBTC Longview model, we can see the 4 phases after the halving. We see that we're in phase 1. This is where the sunshine comes out. We're really, really early in that phase. Looking to the KS model, which is a crypto technical trading model based on institutional price psychology, everything is just chugging along as per normal. We're about mid-cycle. As we head towards the top, looking at the last cycle, it's really important to understand how price moves in a wave. You can expect 40%, 30%, 20% drawdowns as we get to that exponential blow off top, where Bitcoin price will extend hundreds of percent. And of course, the alts will rally dramatically. There's still talk about the Delta variant, so let's look into the health of the economy throughout the world. We can see the cases in the last 7 days for C19, 4,537,328. This is the first time that we have noticed a week-on-week negative percent. That's really fantastic. We also know quite a few negatives from a week compared to the previous week perspective. That's a really good sign. Vaccinations continue to climb. Around 32.17% of the world is either fully or partially vaccinated. Let's turn to the global indexes and see how stock markets around the world are tracking. Now, why do we do this? What has this got to do with Bitcoin? It's a good question. Everything is interrelated. When main markets sell off, Bitcoin does as well. So we really need to look at how things are performing overall. Please always keep this quote in mind. Deal with problems when they occur, not before. It's a good rule for life and especially for investing and trading. Looking across global markets, we can see Russia came down, as did China. The US came up, as did Canada, and also Brazil. Looking at the business cycle for the US, we can see it's just in mid-cycle phase. Canada is a little bit earlier, China a little bit later. India is in early cycle recovery, as is South Korea, Japan, Mexico, Brazil. The UK is in early stage recovery, as is Germany, Italy, France, and Australia and Spain. So let's dig into those markets. We start with the US market. Now, why is that? As of January 2021, the US market accounted for about 56% of global stock market value, followed by Japan, China, the UK. It's really important to look at the US market. The first thing we look at is the VIX. The VIX is the fear gauge of the market. We can see the fear dramatically came down over the past 2 sessions. That's a really good thing. What happens when fear comes down? The stock market rallies, it goes up. What I've done here is to put the inverse VIX in for you so that you can see how the stock market and how the inverse of the VIX relates. This just creates a kind of a one-to-one relationship. Also, I've put in the Bitcoin fingerprint here. This is the price of Bitcoin, so you can see how different things relate to each other. You can see the Nasdaq did really well. It closed over that resistance. It's a really fantastic move. The S&P 500 also rallied substantially from that support. The Russell 2000 also rallied back to support. It's kind of at support at resistance right now. The Dow Jones also bounced from support like a Super Bowl. Canada's stock market also bounced from support, as did Mexico's market. Rule 111, crowd psychology creates price. When you look at the fear gauge of the crypto market and the fear gauge of the stock market, what is it telling you? Fear drives price. What drives fear? Crowd psychology. It's really important to understand this. In crypto, the psychology is a bit crazy. Really, compared to the stock market, crypto is so much more volatile. The reason I showed you before how dominant the US market was in terms of attracting funds, stock market funds, is when the fear gauge decreases, that rallies stocks, not just in the US, but throughout the world. We can see here in Brazil over the past 2 sessions, price is starting to recover. We can see it in Spain as well. Over the past 2 sessions, price is bottoming out. The UK, the FTSE 100, had a slightly different approach, but the last session, it's been coming up. Price is increasing. Italy's market is also improving. France's market went up to very close to the previous all-time high and then sold off. This is really normal behavior. You can see this in individual stocks all the time. As soon as they approach an all-time high, they tend to sell off, gather momentum, and shoot through. It's very normal. When they shoot through, they tend to come back and touch the previous all-time high as well. We can see the Swiss market is improving, but it's still under this resistance. Germany's market is also improving. China's Shanghai Composite Index is still selling off. And when we think about the headlines from the Wall Street Journal, it's not surprising. China's Hang Seng Index continues to show weakness. The Nasdaq Taiwan Index is bottoming out a little, but it's been showing so much weakness recently. South Korea's market has been pretty much hammered recently. It's not doing too well. It's a little bit sick. A few people reached out to me from the community and had different ideas and shared different news sources with me about what this could be because of. It's really interesting. Perhaps the pullout of US forces from Afghanistan and redeployment into the South China Sea could be an indication that basically the US is preparing for some kind of conflict. South Korea's market could be foretelling that. This is one of those things we don't get too hyped up over. Let's just see what happens. If anything like that happens, gold will bounce up immediately. We can tell from so many indicators when global conflicts are around the corner. Having traded gold for many, many years, I know what to look for. I can keep you informed. Japan's Nikkei 225 index is recovering. Japan is very close to South Korea. There's been a lot of threatening going on from China to Japan and China to South Korea. If we were seeing real structural weakness in that region, we would expect Japan's stock market to be following South Korea's. It's not currently. That's just one thing to keep an eye open for. Geopolitical tensions always exist in the globe. I think there was one study done that says the whole human race has had about 1 year of global peace in its entire existence. The globe, across the world, people are always fighting with someone. Singapore's market is back above support. Australia's market has improved. India's market is showing a little bit of weakness here. Let's have a look through the overall sectors. The standout performer in the US was information technology, followed by the utilities, then communication services. Looking at a heat map of that, we can see Microsoft in technology, software, infrastructure was a standout performer. Google did quite well, Apple up 1%. It's really interesting, you apply the same percents as the stock market earns to what crypto earns. Like I said, it's like watching grass grow. Of course, the other part of that equation is you have to be comfortable with volatility. Crypto is very volatile. Let's have a look at high yield corporate bond ETF. We saw a recovery. Notice how it's following the inverse VIX. Copper futures also had a bounce, but it's still very much under resistance. The airline index hit support and bounced, as we thought it might do anyway, and we saw from the news that airlines are having a bit of an issue with traffic at the moment. The IYT US Transportation ETF is still under resistance. Nasdaq Transportation is still below resistance, looking quite weak. The DTX, Dow Jones Transportation Average, is below resistance, but it's bouncing. The DJ Trans Average is basically at support. Utilities, as we saw from the sector analysis, staged quite a big rally. It's now back above support. The news headlines swimming around Brent oil and light crude oil are related to the slowdown in China, and that's given as an explanation for this downward price momentum. We also have a support line coming up for price. Let's see how it goes, but they're generally very weak. Light crude oil is similarly quite weak at the moment. Looking at the 5-year break-even inflation rate, we can see it's been decaying away from resistance currently. The 5-year forward inflation expectation rate has kicked up, whereas the 10-year break-even inflation rate has decreased. The T-bond futures are holding support, they're increasing. The TLT, the 20-plus year Treasury bond ETF, is also increasing. It's good to note that the TLT is kind of like a flight to safety. When people get worried about things, investors get worried, they can cycle money out of the stock market and put it in Treasury bonds. Let's have a look at gold. Gold is trying its best to get above this triple resistance that's above it currently. It's getting there. Hopefully it will get above. If there were massive geopolitical tensions between the US and China, we would expect gold to rally. The potential spanner in the works is that people may be looking at Bitcoin as digital gold. That could be playing into the narrative right now, but a lot of people are still very traditional. They don't realistically trust Bitcoin, so we would still expect gold to rally. We're not seeing anything like that. That's just something to keep in your mind. We can see that silver is still under sustained price pressure, downwards price pressure. The TNX, the 10-year Treasury note yield, is on its way back up to resistance. The TYX, the 30-year Treasury bond yield, is hitting support, dual support levels. We would expect to bounce from this level. The DXY, the US dollar currency index, actually sold off. It's still progressing upwards, but it's not with the same level of power as the past 4 sessions. Just zooming out a little bit on the DXY, you'll notice this blue line is the bottom of the COVID shutdown low. This blue line is the peak just before COVID hit and the US liquidity crisis hit as well. 2 black swans rolled up into one little neat package. We can see that the DXY hasn't even hit the bottom part of this COVID sell-off. Let's just keep our eye on this. It's still very much under resistance. Now, why did I say under resistance? You say, Ken, it's above resistance. Look at this, it's going really well. Okay, if we draw a resistance down here, we can see that the dollar, the DXY, is under this. It's also under the COVID low. Those two things will be acting as fairly strong resistance for the dollar. Let's just see how it all plays out. The dollar is generally a flight to safety. You can think of it as the same thing as stable coins in the crypto market. Let's just quickly check out the main market movers. We can see Apple has got back up above that support. Microsoft is rallying up. Google is starting to repair. It's bounced from that support. Amazon continues to be weak, even though the past 2 sessions were positive for just about everything else. They weren't so positive for Amazon. A lot of people have been saying, Ken, why is Amazon so weak? Amazon came out with numbers that disappointed the street, but maybe there's a little bit more to it. When we think about the COVID shutdown, the C-19 shutdown, a lot of people transferred out from physical retail to digital. Amazon was the way to go, the way to buy. Maybe what people are pricing into the market is that things are repairing to some degree, and they're thinking that maybe Amazon cannot continue its upward price progression. So they're just adjusting price accordingly. We've seen a bounce in Facebook, but that's still under resistance. Nvidia bounced really nicely. It's coming back up to test and challenge that overhead resistance. PayPal is doing a similar thing. It's seeking to regain that resistance and turn it to support. This is a real anomaly in many respects. We look at Netflix. Netflix price has been rallying. Because Netflix is a stay-at-home stock, we would expect the same would be happening with Amazon, but it's not. We can see very strong price momentum in Netflix. Things overall in the market are looking okay. The reduction in the fear gauge was a very good sign. Let's see how things play out, and let's look into the crypto stocks. In the main stock market, we look at the Nasdaq, we look at the Russell, S&P 500 and the Dow. What that is in the crypto space is Bitcoin. So that's why we need to look at Bitcoin. It's like those 4 major indexes all rolled into one. Bitcoin basically controls the crypto market directionally. We see that when Bitcoin comes up, typically every single alt will follow. That's not always every alt will follow in this same percentage. And sometimes the alts absolutely blast Bitcoin into the dust from a positive and negative direction. So let's check out Bitcoin's technical action. we can see that Bitcoin had that really important psychological $50,000 resistance above. It's been backing away from that. It nearly hit 440, which was a resistance level. Nearly hit it, but it didn't quite make it. What's happened is that it's just consolidating around this upward trend line at basically 48,661, which is its current price. We expect Bitcoin to attack that $50,000 level. It's got a lot of momentum, but as always, we always know that crypto is really volatile. So we say when we get a wave down, we're really happy. We know that Bitcoin is in the right cycle at the right time. The expectation across the board is it's going up. So let's have a look at the support levels. We have a support level at 48,593, 47,819, 47,206, 46,566, 45,830. We've got quite a lot of support around the $47,000 mark. That is quite good. We could get a wave down to around 47,206 and then see a very constructive bounce up to take out the $50,000 level. As it's weekend action, we'll just keep our eye on things. Things can be a little bit light in terms of trading across the weekend, so just be aware of that. Since Bitcoin's low around 32 days ago, Bitcoin has rallied in value 68.58%. Not a bad effort. Ethereum over the past 31 days was up 100.69%. That goes to show you the power of the alts. The alts move directionally with Bitcoin. They over-exaggerate up and down movements. When Bitcoin is coming down, the alts come down far harder. When Bitcoin is going up, it's the reverse. There are some particular nuances to that behavior, but basically it's correct. We can see Ethereum marching upwards. We've got a little bit of indecision at the market at the moment on a daily basis. Why is that? Because it's challenging these highs. What we know is that whenever something challenges a high, it tends to break it, come back, or reject it, accumulate power, and break through it. We'll just see what happens. This is just really normal price behavior. When looking at the total market cap over the past 31 days, it's come up 82.87%. Not as much as Ethereum. Go Ethereum, well done. What we can see in the crypto market, we're not getting exactly the same indecision as we're getting with Ethereum right now. The total market cap is $2.068 trillion. Now, why do we look at total market cap? We can't trade this, right? Yeah, we don't need to. It's really about the directional movement and bias, looking at every single coin in the market, and we know there's thousands and thousands of coins. They're all moving as one in this chart. When we look at Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, we see something really interesting. The inverse VIX and Bitcoin's price have synchronized to a degree, and look at what happened with GBTC. It also synchronized. It's really fascinating to see this. Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is still under resistance, but it's passed above this downwards resistance line. It's starting its repair. CoinShares Physical Bitcoin BitC is performing really well. It's above support now. The Purpose Bitcoin ETF is performing even more strongly. It's got positive air above that support line. BTCQ, the 3IQ CoinShares Bitcoin ETF, is also doing really well. It's got positive air there. You always want to invest in strength, because when you invest in weakness, your money just goes down the tube basically. BTC ETC is doing quite well. It's above support, but not to the same degree as the other ones. The Bitcoin Fund Canada QBTC is also doing well. It's above support. Just something to bear in mind here. This particular analysis is called comparative technical analysis, a field that I developed. Comparative technical analysis doesn't try to fit the TA or the technical analysis to a specific chart. It compares different charts with the same bias of technical analysis. Now, what does that mean, you say? Okay, let's look at BitW. You can see this line. If this line was extended, it would actually equal this line on QBTC. This is drawn to show any prevailing weakness or any particular strength. I think that may help you with understanding what these lines actually mean. It's all about strength. We're trying to detect strength, or of course detect weakness. We can see BitW, the Bitwise 10 crypto index fund, is not performing so well relatively. The Grayscale digital large cap fund is doing really well. Look at the power inherent in here. Excellent. 21XB, 21 shares Bitcoin ETP is nearly back to support. It's just under resistance. VanEck Vector's Bitcoin ETM is still below resistance. CI Galaxy Bitcoin ETF is showing strength above support. Osprey Bitcoin Trust OBTC, comparatively, it's showing weakness. BitC, the 9-point Bitcoin ETF, is showing a lot of strength, as is the Bitcoin ETF, EBIT. It's also showing a lot of strength. MicroStrategy has followed the inverse VIX, and of course Bitcoin as well. We have this interplay between the inverse VIX and Bitcoin's fingerprint, impacting these heavily weighted public companies with Bitcoin exposure. MicroStrategy, MSTR, has bounced really well. Tesla is still neutral, just bounding between the upper support and resistance lines. Galaxy Digital is still showing comparative weakness. Voyager Digital is showing a lot of comparative weakness. We can see Square has bounced from support. Marathon Digital was under resistance 2 sessions ago. Now it's bounced quite strongly from support. It's doing quite well. Still under resistance, but doing quite well. Coinbase Global has bounced from support. We can see Hut 8 Mining Corporation has bounced from support as well. If you'd like to know how to do comparative technical analysis, I'll just very quickly guide you through it. What we're looking at is from this low to the first bounce. From here, point A, point B, we draw our line up there. The same concept on every single chart. It's really important to look at that from that perspective. It's kind of interesting because if we go back to the candle view, you may not quite know how it's drawn, but that comparative from the bottom to the second retracement is how we're doing the comparative analysis. That allows us to compare apple to apple to apple to apple. It's really important. Let's look at ADE. See, that's very different, isn't it? This shows comparative weakness. That's why it's called comparative technical analysis. It's a field I developed because it's important to be able to look at different investment vehicles basically from a comparative perspective. We can see that the Bitcoin group SE, which is ADE, is not performing the same relative to the other peers. For Riot Blockchain, it's bounced from support. This is really one of the reasons that we do comparative technical analysis. BitF, Bitfarms, you can see how much explosive growth is in BitF's price action. This is what we're trying to identify strength. When we identify weakness, well, that's for shorting, but for doing a long trade, definitely you want to go with strength. BitF has a lot of strength. Argo blockchain, ARB, we can see that normalized line, comparative technical analysis line. Price action is way below it. We say this has reductions in strength comparative to the group, but it's starting to improve, and it's also crossed across a different resistance line that we could draw here if we were just doing normal technical analysis. Hive blockchain has done a bounce, but it's still under resistance. BitDigital, BTBT, showed a lot of strength recently, but had quite a sell-off and is under that resistance now. It's shaping up to see, well, potentially it's going to rally up, but this is a little bit weak in the last session. Silvergate Capital Corporation is under resistance, trying to make its way back to either turn this to support or resume down, but the money would be on trying to turn that to support, considering overall market conditions. I hope you found the content useful. Please consider sharing this video if you think it will help others. Thank you to our moderators and admins for keeping our community safe from scammers. Please say hi and let me know where you're viewing from and if you have any questions. If you would like updates on price movements in the crypto market, please subscribe to YouTube, and you can join on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. I've left details in the description of this video. Please remember, crypto is volatile. Always prepare yourself for the best and the worst case scenarios. Reality will likely be between them. Stay safe out there. Take care and see you next time. Bye for now.